Hello!
Welcome to Monday night Generational Change live stream.
It is a Monday night live stream, and we are ready to rock and roll. What's going on? My God. Where do we start?
Do you want me to pull it up? We're introducing a new segment tonight.
Oh, a new segment.
Wait. This is going to be, you'll appreciate this. So we need to go here. Go like this.
Focus on Florida.
Okay, this is not the new part.
No.
But I'm always going to add little things to amuse you, like doing it. So these were like the stories that we sort of discussed, and I added in the one about the manatees because it's really, really bothering me.
We've got some exciting things to discuss right off the bat. We finally got somebody who's going to be working on our website, so that's going to get us to where we need to go in terms of upgrades. Been desperately trying to find the right person. But more importantly, we are looking for a volunteer coordinator.
Yes, we are looking for a volunteer coordinator. It's a very part-time volunteer position, but it can be something that somebody could get volunteer hours or even credit or even course credit. Like it could be an internship. So we need somebody who is good at organizing, preferably interested in community service, and also is tech savvy. I need someone who can work this volunteer impact software program.
What's the name of the software?
Volunteer Impact.
Volunteer Impact.
Volunteer Impact is the name of it. But
so that's And obviously, today could be a very big day, depending on, where the votes break with the Bessemer, Alabama.
Why'd you have me pull this up if you're not ready to do this?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, do you want to do this or not?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, what do you want to do?
Have the camera up on us like every second. I'm just trying to say a couple of things first, Yeah, Jen is.
I like to have a schedule.
Yeah, Jen's very rigid when it comes to stuff like that, so I don't want to make her upset. But yeah, obviously today's a very big day. We're certainly hoping that if it does become a union, Amazon obviously will be taken for quite a loop. And one of the things I think
can we just first preface, because I don't think not everybody knows what you're talking about. We're talking about the election for unionization in Bessemer, Alabama, among Amazon workers.
So if the workers in Bessemer, Alabama do decide to unionize, and I believe they will,
here's hoping.
Yeah, it's going to send shockwaves through the entire country in many, many ways. Not the least of which, I think, if they do unionize, I do think there's a possibility that the Amazon stock could take a big hit. And
I don't know, but I'm just nervous that this won't really be a fair election. Like I think I have empirical
evidence. What would give you any reason to believe it would be a fair election?
Right. So my concern is that Bezos is going to pull out all the stops and be as filthy as possible and do everything he can. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like 40 something years after Norma Ray, and we're still
40 years after Reagan fired the air traffic controllers.
It's just, so then it's like 50 years. This is just ridiculous. But anyway, so I'm suspicious as to how this election will actually go. I don't trust it. This is my problem.
I don't trust it either, but at the same time, there's such a bright spotlight on it. But I do think that what needs to be talked about before we get into focus on Florida is who is actually, look, it's one thing to throw token support at this idea. President Biden did say he supports the right of the Amazon workers to unionize, but he's not advocating for them to unionize.
Of course not.
So I want to know who is actually legitimately advocating for the Amazon workers to unionize. And so
of people in authority positions,
of course, that could actually have serious influence over the outcome.
Bernie Sanders.
That's it. The only one. Now, are there other people that have gone down? Yes. Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush did go down a few weeks ago, and you got to tip your hat to them. But this is crunch time. Yeah. This is when the decision is essentially made. And apparently a lot of the younger voters were on the fence about whether or not they wanted to unionize. And there is no doubt. I mean, if you know anything about the inner workings of an organization like Amazon, an organization like Walmart.
They've been following people and intimidating people with local police.
Oh, yeah.
This has been out of a movie, is how they're harassing these people. And so I would suggest, as Bo says, I would suggest that any organization that's fighting so hard to resist something, there's a reason for that.
because they know if they lose this fight, they're in big trouble. And that's the problem. You see, the union, this idea of the labor movement being revitalized, it's funny. If the labor movement was revitalized 2 years ago, Bernie Sanders would be president of the United States right now. But because it hasn't fully revitalized itself, because there's still so much corruption in the ranks.
Well, and not to mention laws like right to work states that we have that are squashing, which we will, that is going to be sort of, that's a hint as to the new segment we're introducing tonight.
You know what? Why don't we introduce that new segment, since that's a good segue? So I don't
okay, wait.
That. Let Jen do her thing.
Okay, so this is going to be a new segment for tonight, because the new segment is called
Florida Bites.
Florida Bites, and it's full of reptiles. And this week's reptile is Ray Rodriguez. He is a
what is so important about this? This bobbing. There's a great in the world.
Tell me you can't tell what you know what that is. Like, what does that look like to you?
It's like the firemen are drowning in the water.
This is what is happening. So Senator Rodriguez, who, by the way, is terming out, so he doesn't even have to worry about re-election. That's one thing. So he's just going to do whatever he wants to get in with whoever his next employer is likely to be, which is whoever is involved financially in these pension funds.
Well, ironically, I think he may be in. I think he may be in Charlie Crist's congressional district.
I don't know what that. Like can you not? This is you're totally.
I know. I'm thinking along the lines of where he may go.
No,
but anyway,
no. Even if he's going into the private sector to work for one of these companies that run the 401ks and what he's trying to be a proponent of, basically what he is wanting to do is take away the pension program and further weaken the unions of our firefighters, and not just firefighters. It's not just firefighters. It's service worker, and like it's various service. It's anybody who would be in the Florida in the pension program, different pension programs that are guaranteed. And he wants to, of course, privatize that and switch it over to a 401k investment type system.
Yeah.
So that's that guy. So he is the inaugural person of Florida Bites and is full of reptiles.
And what I think is most telling about a guy like this is the fact that a lot of these particular bills end up going under the radar. And the only way you're going to know about it is through different channels like ours, which of course is focusing on labor, because that is the future. A nonpartisan labor movement is the key. Notice how with the Amazon workers, they're not talking about what political affiliation they are.
No.
They're just talking about the fact that these are workers going up against the biggest behemoth on the planet in Jeff Bezos. And so I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are interested in something like that, and why even somebody like Marco Rubio came out in support of the Amazon workers unionizing. Now, of course, Tommy Tuberville, who is the senator from Alabama, is trying to tell people that it would be taking away their freedom if they... The mealy-mouth language that these guys come up with.
Interestingly, I was just reading something about Marco Rubio, in that he has been extremely a big proponent of Everglades restoration, and has been pushing to include that in this package, in the infrastructure bill, to include what we need to be done in terms of our draining and getting the natural flow of water back to the Everglades.
I do think that Rubio is basically making his choice. That he's going to just
praise Marco.
Yeah,
Rubio.
Well, I think he's making his choice. I think listen, he's as big a lapdog as anybody we've ever seen, but he is. If we're deciding between a douche and a turd sandwich, as they say in South Park, there is no question that Marco Rubio is preferable to Rick Scott. And what I mean by that is Marco Rubio is somebody who is going to break away from the Trump wing of the Republican Party. And so he's going to do his thing, whereas the Ron DeSantis and the Rick Scotts of the world are going to go right with Trump in whatever direction
they can't climb up his butt far enough.
No, and I think Rubio believes that he's going to need some type of a labor vote, even though I believe his seat is safe. The only seat I think could potentially be vulnerable is DeSantis's, if there is in fact a big enough scandal.
And yet people are even talking about him running for president in 4 years, which is
of course
crazy that, we're talking about him not even having a safe, re-election for governor.
Well, did you? Well, again, this is interesting. I don't know if this is part of our focus on Florida, if it was added in there.
Which part?
But the part about the voter suppression bill that the GOP is trying to.
No, wait.
Okay.
Is that the thing where our locals all came out? Okay. Oh, yeah. See, now you're going to really appreciate this.
Okay. So we've got something very interesting to show you guys. So you're going to appreciate what we're talking about.
That's my little logo.
Okay.
Is this what you were talking about?
So this is our weekly segment now on Mondays, which is Focus on Florida. And these are the important topics of discussion that are happening. Now, even though this is listed as, the number 3rd issue.
No, we're not in order.
Okay.
These are not in order. It's
just
design, whatever.
So what we obviously want to focus on here, which I think is very important, is the GOP lately have been enacting the type of policies that they're famous for in states like Florida. Now, the GOP has problems all over the United States, no question. But in the Deep South, in states like Florida and Georgia, this is where it gets really bad. So they just passed in Tallahassee one of those bills that, I think the best way to describe it is to basically say, your First Amendment rights are now in serious jeopardy because you do not have a right to protest. And if you do...
Oh, you're talking about that. I thought you were talking about...
I am going to talk about that.
Okay.
And that's another one that's added in. So they are effectively making it so that you can't have
it's an
right
anti-protest, but which I do believe would not stand constitutional test. But the fact that this is what they're spending their time doing, and not only are they spending their time doing it, but this is the first bill. This is bill number one. This is priority 1 is an anti-protest bill. That's their first priority. Nothing else, making sure we don't protest.
1000%. And so what they're effectively doing is not only taking away your right to protest, but the other caveat in the bill that is really dangerous is the fact that if you are somebody who fights back against one of the protesters and ends up either seriously hurting them or even killing them.
Yeah, you're
absolved of responsibility. That's just another kind of stand your ground law that they had to come up with.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. So, but that's not all. That's not all. We've got more.
Okay, but do you see how funny that is? I created that, and I think it's a good logo for just in general when these kinds of stories come up.
So, if you're wondering why we've got the pot calling the kettle black, we have a very lovely thing.
Look at that. I've been really hitting the Canva.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore wants to let us know that he's live right now too, and that we need to go to his channel. No thanks. I think we've got better quality content over here.
Thanks, Declan.
Although Jimmy does have a great friend of the show, Justin Jackson, on tonight, so
that's cool.
Give credit for that. Maybe we'll check it out after the fact.
Why do you give Declan the props?
So my point is, your black is alluding to the fact
it's a pot calling the kettle black. Yeah, I think it's clear.
The hypocrisy knows no bounds, and so Florida's congressional Democrats want to now. Before I jump into this, one more thing, I
just look at that part of it.
Yes, I know.
That's why it's there.
Yeah. So of course it's. Well, I'll share my sentiments on that in a minute. But what's very important to recognize is that the GOP is going to continue to do these very nefarious things, which is why they're now attempting to put up a bill, essentially a mirror bill of the voter suppression bill that was just passed in Georgia. They're attempting to do the same thing now. Penalize people who are waiting on long lines of getting food, not being allowed to take your ballot to a drop box. Everything you could. Is
this where they think they were arresting people for bringing water to people waiting in lines?
There is absolutely no justification to this BS, but they're going to try. They're losing control of the electorate, and this is what they do. They don't want you to vote because they know you're not going to vote their way.
But are we staying on the Florida story?
We are staying on the Florida story.
Because I feel like you're not.
So, but here's where it gets very interesting. The Florida congressional Democratic delegation decided to stick their nose in this story about what happened to Jose Javier Rodriguez in Senate District 39, I believe it is, or 36. My point is, because it was discovered that Frank Artillis, who was kicked out of the state Senate.
We spoke about this like a week or so ago.
We did.
Yes.
We did talk about this.
But can you get to the part that's new? Because this is I feel like we've done this story.
So the new part is the congressional Democrats in the state of Florida, led by our Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has a problem with illicit election interference tactics.
And wasn't it, it's like a sham candidate? It's kind of like having a sham organization putting out slate cards that have your name on it. It's so interesting. So she is taking the lead role in getting to the bottom of this election fraud problem.
The problem here that you guys need to understand is that a lot of people on the national level are aware of what Debbie Wasserman Schultz did when she was the head of the DNC. What a lot of people may not know is the type of things that she does at the local level to suppress any type of challenges, any type of progressive uprising. She goes out of her way to make sure that this does not happen. So when Jen ran for Congress, she basically was pulling the strings, making sure that our local DEC did not even acknowledge that Jen was running in the race, made sure that it was very difficult for us to get access to voter data.
We were ghosted. They're scared of her.
And so, well, I don't know if they're scared of her. They just go along with what she wants.
Why would you do that unless you would be scared of somebody?
No, listen, you can call it what you want, but the fact is they were going above and beyond where they could have been going in terms of making sure that people couldn't vote and or to even know who Jen was. And the fact that somebody like Debbie is trying to lead the effort because it's the GOP. Yeah. He who is without sin cast the first stone.
That and the fact that I'm sure she'll work side by side with them and when they're redistricting and gerrymandering our districts up.
We have 27 congressional districts in the state and maybe 4 of them are competitive.
And I do believe that the reason that they allow there to even be the amount of blue districts that they do is because she is basically a Republican.
You can call it whatever you want to call it.
I just think that if that's why, otherwise they could make it however they want to make it. That's the reality.
Yes. And while I do think that that is a very important part of this, at the same time, you can't neglect the fact that Debbie is desperately trying to make herself look good in whatever way, shape, or form she can. That's why she was so ready, willing, and able to try to put herself front and center with the Marjorie Taylor Greene story. That is why she's trying to put herself front and center with a story like this.
She loves the wedge stories. She loves them.
You know, anything that could be, hey, look.
And is safe.
Hey, look, we're getting spammed. I guess our channel is really starting to pick up some steam.
Oh, okay.
So that's good to know.
All right, good.
That's good to know.
All right. So but let's go from that to our next door Congresswoman and her tweet. Because I don't really follow, but you obviously saw this and thought it was worthy.
Tone deafness is one thing that comes to mind when you think of these, older, out of touch representatives who live in a bubble. Well, to say that Congresswoman Wilson, Frederica Wilson, lives in a bubble would be an understatement.
And those who don't know, she wears these
she's the lady with the cowboy hats,
the cowgirl different color kind of miniature cowboy hats. It's like her signature.
And so today she decided to put out a tweet effectively saying, hey, you know that detention center?
I think we should read it. It said, the homestead facility is empty. Bring the immigrant children. Send us the girls. Bring them now and hold me and my community responsible for their humane treatment. We will visit often and monitor their care. Miami-Dade is opening its arms. Now, are you kidding me, Frederica?
Now,
God, yes, let's reopen your port.
Now let's see if you can tell the difference.
Oh, okay, here we go. Let's see. Oh, this is good. Okay,
let's see
all right, this is good. So now compare.
The homestead facility, I can't see. The homestead facility is empty. Bring the immigrant children. Send us all the girls. The girls, very important. Send the girls. Bring them now and hold me and my constituents accountable for the humane treatment. We're going to treat them very humanely. Believe me when I tell you, we will visit the children often and monitor them and make sure they're doing okay. Miami-Dade is open for business.
Oh, yeah.
It's open for business.
Okay.
Incredible.
See, now, if that was the person who put out the tweet, I bet you all the Democrats down here would be like, oh my God, they're wanting to reopen the homestead facility, which, by the way, is a for-profit facility. So I would suggest that people maybe look into who Frederica Wilson takes money from. I'm just saying.
We talked, for a very long time, Debbie was outright taking money from Geo Group, which is the private prison industrial complex, and especially in the state of Florida.
But then that got busted. They got busted.
Now she's just funneling the money through other channels, which is what they always end up doing. And so like I said, one of the things that I think most people agree with when it comes to politics is the average person wouldn't mind being involved if there wasn't so much hypocrisy and so much hyper-partisanship.
Right.
If this was nonpartisan, it was a legitimate issue that was actually not trying to, mudsling and try to pit one person against the other, I think a lot of people would be open to that. But even if you don't support, again, and this is what the Democrat establishment will do, is essentially say, well, you're just siding with Trump. No, we're not siding with Trump. We're just telling you that you're basically doing the exact same thing he would do, only it's bad when he does it and it's okay when you do it. And so effectively,
can you imagine if this tweet was Trump and it came up at like a Dem Club meeting?
This would be talked about all over the country.
Oh my God, MSNBC
would never stop talking about this.
But Frederica Wilson out.
Totally bring them in. It's like,
bring them to our concentration camp.
Bring them to our concentration camp. That's what you call it.
We'll profit off of them.
And if you see the photos of what's going on now, it's even worse than what was going on with Trump.
But yet they're calling this new relief package like the next New Deal. Can't make this up.
Well, what's interesting is that already Senator Schumer is coming out and trying to put the $15 minimum wage into the next relief bill.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people talk about,
keep pushing it off.
Well, is AOC actually going to primary Schumer? No, the truth is that AOC's victory over Crowley started a progressive movement in New York City. It's not just AOC, it's everybody.
Okay, but you see how you're so off topic.
I know. I know,
but like, let's stay focused. And you want to talk about that Florida is like super spreader central?
We're never going to get out of our own way in this state, ever.
Well, until the pharmaceutical companies can profit as much as humanly possible from as many vaccines, yearly vaccines, and whatever is now going to be required.
Yep.
And employers and schools and everyone's going to require that everyone has the vaccine.
Who's decided to check in this evening? Rudy, great to see you, my friend.
Hi, Rudy.
We miss you, buddy.
We do. And I think that, now that we have a volunteer group and you've got your volunteer group, I think maybe our volunteer group should have a gathering.
Yes, I agree. And if everything goes right,
because then I'll get to see my friend Anthony.
Yeah, well, we know who we want to have as our volunteer.
Well, I'm not going to.
Yes, I know.
I'm not going to say that.
I know. I'll say it because
everyone knows I love.
She loves herself.
I love Anthony.
She loves Anthony and Charlia. They are the cutest couple.
I do. So. I've loved Anthony Paz since I first met him. But anyway, I digress.
Guy.
So this is the thing. So COVID is super spreading here. Obviously, spring break,
and it's a very serious problem because we talk constantly.
But the variant cases. That's what's so crazy. Is Florida is #1 in the country. Woo! Of variant cases. We're special.
Variants. And not
Florida's
only that,
#1.
but part of the reason why Florida has such a problem with this is that we're just a transient state. The majority of the people that you see out in South Beach and Fort Lauderdale, they're not from here. They don't care. They don't care if they come down here and they spread the virus and that type of thing.
But the truth is that our people, that the people that we see out and about, it's like you're at your own risk. But here's the thing: I fully support that. Like this is where I get very libertarian.
But again, at this point, it's like, when are you ever going to get it under control? Because it was horrifically mismanaged from the very beginning.
Well, it depends on what you consider horrifically mismanaged. Mismanaged from a perspective of harm to people, very profitable. This was the biggest siphoning of like wealth to corporate America in a really long time.
And I was just thinking that, if it ever comes out that virus was actually started in a Chinese laboratory.
Well, here's the thing. So I was watching some stuff on that today, and I've always thought that. I've always thought that.
Always.
Now, I don't think that it was necessarily intentional. I don't think it's nefarious. I think that we have researchers in our disease centers. People are constantly doing research with different viruses. Is it possible that they were doing something and somebody got contaminated? Yes, that's to me what seems the most reasonable explanation. But most people don't go with reason. They go with whatever the talking point headlines are, like man has sex with bat and gets COVID or whatever they're trying to put out there. No, but I just, they're trying to blame it on the bats. Don't blame the bats, people.
No,
they're using the bats as scapegoats. They're like scape bats. And I resent that. And I do think it came from a lab. And I don't think it was like purposefully to hurt people. But I do think it was something that was done that way. Yes.
No, I don't disagree. But ultimately, this is something that we're going to be dealing with for quite some time. And so, for anybody who's wondering what Jen's next move is, all I can tell you is we're not going to be discussing anything of real legitimate substance as far as that's concerned until at least the middle, if not end of the summer. Yeah. So even trying to push that right now.
And quite honestly, my priority right now is getting Nina Turner elected on August 3rd. So
I agree. You know what? After August 3rd, you can bother the hell out of us.
Yeah.
That's right.
Our priority,
put that on the calendar. August 3rd, after that, you can do whatever you want.
Our priority right now needs to be getting Nina Turner.
And either Andrew Yang or Diane Morales, the next mayor of New York City, and Lee Carter, the governor of Virginia. And there's a lot of other.
Okay, now we're both way off topic, but I am.
We have one last thing to talk about before we bring in our awesome guest, Sean Russell.
Do you even know this story? Because I
don't. This is news to me. So you're going to have to tell.
I'm going to tell. So, there has recently been this. You don't have your own.
I don't. Sorry.
You're always stealing my water.
Not tonight.
Okay, so we have noticed a huge increase in Florida in manatee deaths. Now, manatee deaths is something that anybody who knows me knows I take extremely seriously. First of all, I remember when we voted as a state and we all got to vote on what the animal should be for the state. And it is the panther, but I had voted for manatee. So I'm just putting that out there. I was always on team manatee. But so we have seen this huge increase in manatee deaths. And there is always the boat damage, people that don't follow no wake laws. But now it's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has declared that this crisis is an unusual mortality event. And they're saying that it is in conjunction with their food supply being completely destroyed by the algae runoff and all the issues in the water.
There you go.
Right. So the water has been so poisoned that they're dying from malnourishment. And what else is happening is so they're migrating into waters that are too cold for them in search of food, and they're dying from hypothermia. So, right. And so there's a variety of factors, but this is a problem, people. Killing manatees is just not acceptable.
No. And again,
it's infuriating
our ability to protect our ocean life and our wildlife in general is a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
But the good news is our very good friend and confidant, John Paul Mejia, he is the official spokesperson now of the Sunrise Movement.
That's awesome.
And so by being in that position,
he should be related.
I think he's going to take it over at some point. I do. Yeah. I think he'll be the leader.
And I'm sorry to say, but he is just, he's very soft on the eyes. And I'm sure that he will have no trouble recruiting people.
And with that said, it is a perfect segue into our guest tonight, because the environment can be protected in many different ways.
Yes.
But one of the most important ways that still doesn't get talked about enough is our diet and how we eat. And
that also goes into how we get our food produced and how much of our food we produce. So it isn't just our diet and what we eat. It's what foods are being created to sustain those diets and the damage that causes to our environment. I always say I'm pescatarian. I'm not vegan. I'm as far as I can. I won't eat farmed animals. I will only eat wild caught animals. I don't believe in the whole industrial animal production. I think it's disgusting. I think it's inhumane. I have huge issues with that. I stopped wearing leather belts, shoes. I don't have anything I would never, I don't wear animal products. I haven't in about 10 years, but I do eat cheese.
Yeah.
And I do. I know it's horrible. And I know the dairy industry. It's a cognitive dissonance.
And we are going to bring in now an amazing guest, the leader of
SoFlo Vegans.
SoFlo Vegans. You got it right there.
I do.
And he has got himself a wonderful setup, table, canopy, the whole shebang. Anytime you are in Fort Lauderdale, you definitely want to get to the Art Walk and definitely stop by the SoFlo Vegans table. But without further ado, we are going to bring in the champion of champions for South Florida Vegans.
Is this where you met?
Sean Russell. Certainly is.
Oh, so you guys just met Friday night?
Yeah.
Or Saturday night?
It was 2 weeks ago, right? It was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Not this past one.
No.
Okay. No. Last month.
Okay.
Right. And I got to tell you, I had gone by the table and was, just asking him about any particular food suggestions. I said, I'm thinking about checking out Burger Hive because I know that
he's obsessed.
I think it's
with Burger Hive. Obsessed.
Listen,
we've driven so far out of our way multiple times trying to hunt down that truck. Like you can't even, he's like obsessed.
I'm just excited that they're finally going to have a brick and mortar in Davie. So that's going to make it, now you're never going to have to wonder where it is. So you're always going to know. Always going to know.
They probably did that to ward you off.
Oh yeah. Well, I know because I'm such a high paying customer.
So we talk about this. We were just talking about obviously the environmental issues and the environmental impact. And we know obviously that the connection between how our food is produced and how it's raised and the impact that has on the environment. And people often hear it specifically in regards to meat, like just ranching and cows and grazed land and all that stuff. But it's way more than that.
Oh, yeah.
So could you I'm sure you have some good information to share about the connection between like where the veganism, how that truly helps us in dealing with environmental issues.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's been reports written, white pages written on how if the world were to shift to a vegan lifestyle, that would impact climate change and the things that we're going through, the loss of the biodiversity around the world. So I definitely recommend, it's by Dr. Silas Rao. Look at that white paper. It's backed by research. So it's not just something pie in the sky. Hey, if we all hold hands, the world's gonna be a better place. It's actually, corroborated by things that have been put out by other organizations, including the WHO. So I would definitely check that out. So for me, living a vegan lifestyle, that immediately cuts down on my footprint on the planet. But then there's more things that I can do. Once you are armed with the information, you can use that to continue to, make the world a better place.
Sean, what would you say has been the biggest, for me personally, when I gave up meat, I'm a pescatarian, but I eat a lot of vegan meals, and I can definitely attest to the physical change that you feel, energy, sleep habits, things like that. If you can talk about just the overall personal health benefits that you've experienced.
When you eliminate animal yeah. I know it's true. I know it is, but yeah.
No, for me personally, I started going vegan a little bit after going through a health journey, learning about different things that I was putting into my body. And then after I went vegan, I can tell you that I rarely get sick. I lost a lot of weight after I went vegan, probably lost around like 20, 30 pounds over time. And, I went vegan 2013 full time, 2008 when I first attempt. So just in case anyone's out there and you're like, hey, it's hard, It
is. It's not overnight, and it's not, for some people it might be, but I think it's a process.
And what I can say to anyone that's feeling that way is that when I went 2008, I thought I had it. And then I went to LA of all places. And if you know LA and the vegan scene out there, you'll see the irony and what I'm about to say. I was out in LA, and that's when I fell off being vegan in like 2009. So
was it bacon? Was it bacon?
No. Actually, I gave up bacon way before.
I was going to say, because if anything's going to lure me back in, it's going to be bacon.
By that time, it was just poultry, eggs, things that I was eating, and maybe seafood. But yeah, it was really community that made the difference for me. It was going back into it and eventually going vegan 2013. I knew that I got to arm myself with a community of people to support me, that I would be able to find out what are those secret gems in these different cities, find out when they're having a veg fest and all that good information. So I decided to build that community that I was looking for through SoFlo Vegans. So I started 2014 up until now. We've been constantly looking at ways to innovate, to bring it to the masses, because really I'm not just speaking to vegans. I'm creating a platform and environment where vegans thrive. And at the same time, I want to create a spotlight into what's possible. So even if you're not vegan, you have a family member, you've been thinking about it, you can go to SoFlo Vegans, get all the information that you need, and make it that much easier for yourself.
So I have a question for you. Do you know my friend Trish Selden from GMO Free Florida?
Yes. Yeah. I've met her. Yes.
Yeah. See, I just have to play it. It's like vegan geography. Like I always say, I have Jewish geography. It's like vegan geography in South Florida. A lot of people do things for different reasons, even though we want the end result. Like I'm happy if people stop eating meat for a myriad of reasons. Like it's not one thing or the other. For me, it has a lot to do with like ethics and how we treat fellow critters and things like that. And so for me, like I don't have a problem with ingesting animal product if it's done humanely and wild and not like man-made, but also, I don't like the idea of eggs from chickens that are being abused. However, I have a friend, let's say, for example, who has a duck and she loves her duck. She walks her duck on a leash. This duck wears clothes and sleeps wherever it wants to. Every day, this duck lays an egg. My friend eats the egg. Now, I don't feel bad for that duck, right? Like I'm not worried about that. Like that's a very humane situation. Odd.
You actually got the one question in that I was going to ask. This is like
it's an odd duck,
it's like the one exception I ask because there are vegans who are okay with it and there's others who are not. But the whole idea of having like a farm and you have, let's say, chickens and you tend to them and then they lay eggs, and if you eat that egg, it's kind of an interesting split. It's
like what's your thought?
Yeah, it's the one exception that I get from vegans. They say, yeah, that's okay.
What's your thought?
For me, I don't try to find exceptions, especially when it comes to things like eggs and honey. It's just easier for me that way because then you start to have to, especially when you're speaking to someone who's not like deep into the vegan lifestyle, then it's like, okay, then if I can eat this egg, then it's a slippery slope. Then, all right, then there's this egg and this packaging. So it's really, for me, it's just, I just draw that, for me personally, I draw that line in the sand of like, okay, I'm just not going to consume egg because egg, you don't even really need egg. I mean, you can go into the health, there's really, for me, from what I've researched and from what I've heard from doctors and health fitness professionals and what have you, there's no reason for you to ingest eggs into your system. So to contribute to an industry that is, not everybody, the majority, and this is something that I hear echoing from people who are hunters. I know hunters that are against factory farming. There's a lot of people who are not on board with factory farming, even if they will consume animals from, what they would call a humane source. So for me, it's that slippery slope of, I would just rather not have to deal with eggs, period, regardless of the situation. And a lot of people in the community feel that way as well. And then the other thing too, that I want to touch on as well is the idea of humane meat. That is another huge thing. For me, it's like, I don't necessarily believe in humane meat. And for me, what's more important than me jumping down your throat or somebody's throat when they mention that is the reason why I'm vegan. And this was also, I'm bringing up his name again, Dr. Sailesh Rao. There's a acronym called HEAL, and it's health, the environment, animals, and love. And when you combine all of those factors together, that's why I'm vegan. But my primary reason for being vegan is the practice of compassion. So part of that practice of compassion is hearing and listening and understanding where you're coming from. So everything that you just said, it's not coming from, I'm not queued up to be like, to say like, oh, you're bad and wrong. I'm listening to hear where you're coming from, because the more conversations I can have with people who don't think the same way that I can think, then I can start thinking, okay, what is missing for them to take that step to, want to become vegan? And that's not me, yelling at you. That's not me saying you're wrong. That's me, if I have the opportunity, providing you with the education that I've gathered, and hopefully it lands.
Right. Yeah.
One of the food stands that was at the art walk was, I think it was called Bang Shack. The guy who was making this chicken. And I was like, well, I'm not, I don't eat chicken, so I'm not interested in that. But he's like, I've got cauliflower. I think it was cauliflower that he used as a substitute. And what I've discovered is it's amazing what you can do if you're really good to incorporate different types of food. Like I happen to like tofu. I actually think it's a very good substitute in a lot of different meals that you can make. Jen may not agree, but that's okay.
It's not a real food. That's not a real food.
So you say. All right. So here's a very important question, Sean. So Jen likes to refer to foods like, Beyond Meat and any of those companies as Frankin Food.
That's Frankin Food.
So where's the defense of, let's say, imitation chicken, imitation meat?
I'd rather see you crave sometimes you crave the taste of meat, whereas for me, I'm just as happy having a black bean burger, and I don't really care that I don't need it to be a fake meat. Like I'd rather have like walnut and something. Like I just like to know exactly what is or chickpea or cauliflower or whatever it is.
And
Frankin Food, Frankin Food is not that. So I get the vegan thing. I just don't get the Frankin Food thing.
So is that where do you stand on that type of
He wants to know your thoughts on Frankin Food.
My thoughts on Frankin Food. Well, for me, I see it as a great transitional food for people. It's a great entryway into, what's possible. There's some great restaurants out here that are, not going the impossible route, not going the beyond route, making their burgers from chickpeas, from, jackfruit, whatever, getting experimental, because if you look at it, really, it's the base. It's just creating that texture. It's combining the seasonings that you're putting into it, which is the same exact thing as meat, which is why, I always smirk when someone says, I just love meat. I just love meat. And I'm like, you really like the taste of the seasoning on the meat. You know what I mean? Maybe people are out there eating, raw pieces of chicken or, just cooked pieces of chicken with nothing on it. For me, even when I ate meat, I would never do that. So it's like, if you're able to find some, get it. Sometimes people just used to a certain texture. Cause I even know, growing up, there are certain foods I like. Out of cheese for the longest when I was eating that. I couldn't eat it just because of the texture alone. So I get that. And to your original question, that is a transitional food that creates an entryway into what else is possible. So I'm okay with those. Would I jump and call it vegan? Not necessarily, not all the time, especially some of these things.
It wouldn't be the ultimate goal of veganism to transition to foods that are fake versions of what you don't want to eat. It's just as go
ahead.
No, go ahead, Sean.
Please.
No. And quickly, what I was going to say is it's also a blessing, like when I'm out on the road and I don't know where things are, to see a Burger King, to see a Dunkin' Donuts, to know that I can just grab a sandwich and then beyond that convenience factor is great. Will it be my go-to? Not necessarily.
Right.
Yeah. My thoughts were, I wanted to try a few different things because there's things that, I really enjoyed, but I will say that I did try those vegan meatballs from Beyond Meat, and I got to tell you, it had like this really weird aftertaste. There was no way to explain it, but I knew when I was eating, I'm like, this is not good. Like whatever this is, I shouldn't be doing it, and so I stopped doing it. And I really do like, though, something as simple as the vegan meatballs that they sell at Trader Joe's.
Are you really going to go down like a grocery store?
No, but I'm trying to help inform people because I do think it's very important to understand just how much we hurt the environment by the way we eat.
It's true.
That's a very big part of this equation. And, trying to, educate more people on the importance of living a more healthy lifestyle. One of the main reasons I wanted you to come on the show tonight is because we unfortunately were dealt a very, very big blow recently. One of the things that we do, as you know, that I talked about when we first met was GenCore, service to the community. And one of the major projects we were working on was a community garden in East Hollywood in the Liberia neighborhood. And it was going very well, growing lots of fruits and vegetables, doing composting, even having a bee colony. I mean, this is
you can't have bees there, but he is learning beekeeping. Okay. No, because you can't have it. There's liability and there's insurance issues.
All right, well, excuse me, I didn't know.
Yes, it's a community. We had a community garden in a food desert.
And it was going very well, and a lot of people were becoming really excited about that prospect. And then, unfortunately, gentrification reared its ugly head recently, and now the community garden is kaput. So what I hope we can do is potentially combine forces, GenCore and SoFlo Vegans, because I do think that community gardens are the way of the future.
Yeah. And
it's a great way to introduce veganism. I think that that's one of the main components. It's healthy. It's obviously very inexpensive. Yeah. It can grow in abundance. And we've also got a great team already that,
I just think there's a very big connection between sustainable agriculture and veganism and the idea of people growing their own food. And now the fact that we can have front yard gardens and just teaching people how easy it is to do on their own, because good produce is expensive. And that's one of the biggest problems. And so people that live in vulnerable communities have access to junk food, but they don't have access to healthy food. And this is one of the things I think that would help facilitate people even knowing about having a vegan lifestyle and even being able to be, plant-based. Because people, like in a lot of neighborhoods, that's just not an option.
Yeah, and then of course you add in the composting factor, which allows the soil to grow so much faster. I mean, you saw how fast stuff was growing.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Cool. And unfortunately, I think that, you know, there's a very big political element, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like politics, because it always manages to sort of ruin, you know, good community based organizations that are trying to do the right thing. So I'm curious if you guys are currently involved in anything like that, composting,
community garden stuff,
anything like that.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of people doing things in South Florida around it. You know, I go to SoFlo Vegans and you'll get the name of it. Some of them are escaping me, but I know there's a few projects happening in Overtown area. There's a few projects happening in the Oakland Park area. And then I'm sure they're looking to expand and grow their presence. It's just getting the word out. And really that's where SoFlo Vegans comes in. We see the amount of work that's going into the community. I'm glad to make the connection with both of you so we can figure out ways to work together. But our role in this entire movement is to be the eyes and the ears, to showcase it through videos, through podcasts, through any way that we can, so other people can start connecting with each other, because it all boils down to community. If we all come together behind things we're passionate about, that's how we get change to happen.
Where is your area that I mean, I know you're in Miami, but when you say SoFlo, to me, it also includes us people in Broward. So what's the, like, where do you have, you know, a lot of your base? Like, where are your people?
So I'm personally located in Fort Lauderdale, because I look at Fort Lauderdale as the center point, because you just go north or south, depending on where you want to go. But the region that we cover through SoFlo Vegans is from Jupiter all the way to the Keys.
Oh, okay. So for some reason, I thought you were in Miami. You're not even in Miami.
No, I'm not located in Miami.
You were in Miami. I don't know.
But we equally represent, because SoFlo Vegans is not just me. We have a team of around 12 people who are sharing their gifts with our community to get the word out about what we do. So we'll do a feature from a restaurant in Miami. The same day we're doing a feature from a restaurant in North Palm Beach. So there's a lot to happen in South Florida.
Yeah, there's a vegan Cuban restaurant that I want to check out, because I happen to like Cuban food, but Cuban food tends to have a lot of meat in normal circumstances. So the idea that there is a vegan option seems very enticing. And I think you guys may have promoted it. I'm forgetting the name of it right now.
Vegan Cuban cuisine.
That's it. One.
Yeah, we've had them, and you know, obviously, if you grew up in South Florida, you know, and you eat meat, you probably, you know, I definitely, you know, grew up loving Cuban sandwiches, and you know, being able to have one as a vegan that tastes almost identical as the one that I used to have from them, I get my hats off. So if you like vegan Cuban sandwiches, and even if you're not vegan,
what is it? What is a vegan Cuban? Like, what is that? Because it's supposed to be roast pork with ham and cheese.
You'd be very surprised.
So, okay. So what substitute? All right.
Jackfruit, I think, is something that's used.
Jackfruit is commonly used. You have, you know, different bases. Sometimes they use seitan. Sometimes they use soy, which I know you're not a big fan of, tofu. But there's a lot of different things that you can use, because once again, you're just creating with the seasonings and using whatever that base, that protein is, as that texture, and then with the mustard and everything else that you put on it, they have the French bread. So it's really something you definitely get to try
it. I'll try it, but I mean, I grew up down here, and I know what a Cuban sandwich is, and a medianoche, and it's like I've got love there.
There are a number of vegan restaurants in Hollywood, close to the beach, downtown Hollywood. I know that there's a new place that opened up that's like a vegan empanada shop. Definitely want to check that out.
So you offer resources, though. I mean, that's the key thing. Is this is a place. So let's put up the site for sure.
It's SoFloVegans.com.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so on our website, we have a directory of all the different vegan businesses, restaurants. We're expanding the directory to do services. So if you're looking for an accountant that's vegan, all that will be there for you, especially people within the community. But the idea is that you can go on. We have an app as well, so you just have it directly on your phone. Find out, you know, vegan businesses, documentaries, cookbooks, all that information is listed. Other podcasts that, you know, are in the space. So we just want it to be that one place that you go to get all the information. The other part of it as well is we have an events calendar, so you can find out what's happening. Okay. So you can maybe a lot of these events, like the event we just did in Art Walk 2 days ago, we were giving out samples of vegan brownies and vegan cakes from our partners. Vegan, let me give a shout out, Vegan and Pure
That's
Vegan
not
Cakes
vegan
out of West
brownies
Palm.
I like. That's pot brownies I like.
So yeah,
they could be vegan. They could be vegan.
I know some people who can do some really cool things.
I'm sure you do, because like you said, once you've transitioned, you have to transition everything.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and really my main thing was just making it easier for people to be able to consume and get that information.
What are some of the misnomers that people have about, the vegan lifestyle, or things that, you guys focus on that are very important? One of the products that I hope has somewhat of a renaissance is hemp, and I think it's starting to happen. I've seen a number of. I wasn't at the area that you were at the other night. We were at Fat Village, but there was an organization that was there that was offering hemp and CBD products, and just little things like that, I think really go a long way. And what's amazing about, the whole vegan lifestyle is that it really is popular with small businesses. This is not something that's, big box chains or anything like that. So you kind of have to look for them. But anytime you can buy or shop local, that's always a good thing. And that's something that we advocate for very, very strongly. So if there are some misnomers that you think people may have about, sort of the vegan lifestyle and ways that they can improve the reduction of their carbon footprint, I'm sure people would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that it is difficult to be vegan. I think it's just finding the information. It's like with anything you're going to go into. If you're going to go to a new location, you got to know the map. You know how to get there. You can't just think how to get there. So, I mean, being able to get that information, figure out, take small steps if you need to. Some people can just go straight into it and thrive. So it really depends on you as an individual. So that's one thing. The other thing is that there's not a lot of diversity within the vegan community. That's completely not true. I mean, look at me, for example. I'm, running an organization down here in South Florida, and I see a lot of people who look like me within the vegan community. As a matter of fact, the African American community is one of the largest growing segments within the vegan community. So it's like and not even just that, there's so many people from different walks of life, and we try to represent that in our community, in our SoFlo Vegans community. So the answer. Second thing is there is diversity within the vegan community. So those are the two big things. And the other thing too is that, it's like, but just by going vegan, you're healthy. And that's not necessarily true. It's you have to make sure what you're putting into your body. The gold standard in the vegan community is the whole food plant-based diet, and making sure that you're eating your whole foods, you're eating, following all these different things. But that goes with anything. Even if you're not vegan, the same rules apply, that having a nice mix of greens and fruits in your diet is definitely going to reduce the amount of sickness that you experience. But those are probably the three that I'll stick with. There's probably a couple more that I can talk about. But,
I was going to ask you, not from a diversity perspective, because I definitely know it is a diverse group. I've met vegans from all walks of life, but there's definitely a variance in the education system and where people are getting their information and where they're getting educated. And I do think that certain communities obviously don't get the same quality of education as other communities. And I think that there is a dearth of information, and that's one of the biggest barriers to everything, is obviously a dearth of information. So, what can we do? Like just to make sure that it's more diverse and everybody, because I don't think that it's something that gets into our more vulnerable communities as much.
And I think with that, it's really a question of accessibility versus the access to the information, because the information is on the internet. It's just, you got to know where to look, and you have to be open to exploring that. If you are living in a food desert, or if you are living, check to check, are you working 3 jobs and you can't, find the time to cook, a meal from scratch. Those are some barriers that can be in your, presented obstacles for you. And then once again, it's usually when you have a health crisis, or, you're on death's door, that's the motivation that a lot of people have to make that change and to take that. And then once you start down the path, we'll realize how many people around you are there that can support you regardless of where you live. So it's almost like just opening up this world map that doesn't exist until you decide to go in that direction.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that the more we build, we have this philosophy, you know, even though Jen ran for Congress, that the only way we're ever going to truly move forward progressively is through a nonpartisan labor movement. And I do think that the incorporation of a lot of different organizations that have sort of that same pathway in mind, you know, a sustainable agriculture, a better environment, healthcare, living wage, all things that I think most people universally agree on, but without necessarily attaching that direct political affiliation to it. Now, obviously, electoral politics matters, but building that trust and those relationships, I think, come first and foremost. And I do think a lot of people close themselves off to certain things that they may not necessarily feel comfortable with or understand. But knowing that the vegan community in particular are extremely politically active, very progressive, and really do want to see a more sustainable future for not just here, but for everywhere, I think is a very enticing component to South Florida living, and something that really needs to be broadened exponentially. And if there's anything we could do to help with that, I think that would be great. Now, obviously, there's always going to be people who are resistant to even trying anything. From your experience, what would you say people find to be the hardest things to give up in terms of, you know?
Ooh, I know.
Like, well, I'm going to say,
I know cheese.
I'm going to say pizza, bacon, and ice cream are probably the three biggest.
Cheese is the bane of my existence. It is. I can't, like, seriously. And if it were to disappear tomorrow and there was no cheese, I'd get over it and I'd be okay. But there is cheese. And so it's there. And yeah, cheese.
What would you say are the biggest? Because like I
said,
and
chocolate.
I said, well,
those are my big things.
Dark chocolate's great. I don't care what you say. Whatever. Ice cream. I would say ice cream, bacon, and pizza would be the three that most people would universally say, yeah, I'm not giving that up.
Yeah, but pizza's because of cheese.
No, you hit the nail on the head. Cheese is the number one that I've come across for people. Yeah, cheese is the number one for sure.
There's no great substitute. I'm sorry, there isn't. I've tried. You know what? They can when it looks like melted plastic and it tastes like melted plastic, it's not appealing.
I will say this: almond-based cheese is not too bad. The other kinds, especially soy, I do not like at all.
Cheese is the downfall.
But the almond,
that's my downfall. Honestly, if I could get over the cheese thing, I really would have a much easier time being vegan.
I think almond milk cheese is the closest you're going to get.
Really?
I think that mozzarella, they've gotten the flavor.
I'm sure he knows. Yeah. He probably knows all the good. What are the good vegan cheeses?
So it depends on what you're looking for. So each brand has its specialty. So from my experience, I love Kite Hill's cream cheese. I love Miyoko. I love Miyoko spread. You know, put on a cracker type cheese. They have some nice infusions in that.
Yeah, it's all fine until you get to the hard cheeses.
So then, in terms of I haven't actually had it because I'm not a huge cheese fan, even on the vegan side of things.
So no wonder this was easy for you.
So that was like one of the first things I gave up. But then Viola Life is really highly recommended by people within the vegan community for like mozzarella cheese, like the type of cheese you want to melt. So I would say try that out. But you've inspired me because I keep hearing cheese is a thing. Would love to do like a tasting of the different cheeses.
I'd be very happy to participate in said tasting, but I've got to tell you, but now the one thing I do get when it's something that I don't mind either way, I generally will get vegan just because why wouldn't I? And I do like the Trader Joe's vegan cream cheese. I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. I don't. I'm going to admit it. I didn't look, but it's whatever the Trader Joe's vegan cream cheese is. Because that's one of those where it's the coolness and the texture. Yeah. That's what you're really after. It's not like a sharp cheese where you're really going for the cheesy flavor. You're doing that, like you said, for a spread. So it's a lot easier. You can get by with kind of, a vegan spread, but a vegan slice, it all goes wrong.
I definitely think that pizza, it would be, that would definitely be, well, it is because it's just, listen, it's completely, It's a cultured food. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's in this country. It's all over the world.
Okay, the world loves its pizza, but
So
vegans eat pizza. I have a friend
Yeah.
who's vegan. She just doesn't have cheese on her pizza, which to me is just a vegetable flatbread. I mean, that's fine, but you can't call it a pizza with the double Z unless there's the mozzarella with the double Z. It's pizza. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So apparently our video is choppy. I was just told that. It looks like it's fine. How does it look on our end? Does everything look good?
It looks a little fuzzy on your picture.
Oh, interesting.
Fuzzy.
Well, could that be because our connection is a little?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
connection
so.
is unstable if you're on Wi-Fi.
Oh, that could be.
Well, that's good to know because I just got a message saying, "Hey, you're a little fuzzy right now."
We're fuzzy right now. Yeah. Sorry about that.
As long as you can hear us, that's kind of important.
Yeah, it's perfect.
We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But you know what? We haven't even talked about your podcast. So please share with us what you guys talk about.
Yeah, so we bring on different experts within the vegan community, animal rights activists, doctors, scientists, you name it. And we have conversations just like we're having right now. One of the staples that we have in each of our episodes is our vegan origin story. So we kind of find out how to get what their journey looked like. So maybe it can inspire other people as well. And yeah, we've been doing it since 2018. Had the opportunity to speak to some really cool people, and it's opened up the doors for us to do some really interesting things within the community. So we're on season 6 right now. We're going to continue to do it and spread the vegan love to everybody.
I like that. Vegans are generally a peaceful group for the most part.
Yes.
I have met a few militant vegans, but I don't think they're harmful as much as they're just sort of loud and boisterous.
No, I think with somebody like Sean leading the way, I think they're in good shape because you understand that not everybody is going to go along to get along.
No, you can't shame people and judge them into doing what you want them to do. Yeah. And all that does is make them dig their heels in more and make them more resistant because we've seen that on a national level with multiple
I
things.
honestly think that the easiest way to do it is no different than how you really attract people in the political arena. If you have a good message and a very pleasant and presentable way of doing things, most people, for the most part, are going to at least be open to the idea. And so if you basically tell them, hey, look, you may not think vegan is that great of an idea, but I guarantee you, I could get you to try at least 1 or 2 items, and you're going to be like, that's really,
I do
really
think
good.
It goes back to what you were saying, Sean, about people having the time to actually prepare meals. And that's where people get into the convenient foods. And yes, there are more and more convenient vegan foods, but they are expensive. That's one of the things, like it is extremely affordable to be vegan if you have access to like healthy food and produce and that stuff. But when you're dealing with people that have packaged foods, it gets expensive. And I think that is something that is hard for people to adjust.
Speaking of a vegan meal that is really, really good, BurgerFi does a really, really good quinoa burger.
Yes, they do.
Got to give them up for that.
I do.
They definitely do a great job with that. And I get the green style.
Yeah, well, I like my bread.
And I do want to say something really quick. I don't know where we are on time, but in terms of the vegan activism, I will give a shout out to my vegan activists out there because, although not everybody responds to that, I feel like everyone has their place in the community because, the work that they do reminds me why I do what I do. And I may have a different style from them, but the way their passion and, them constantly being out there, advocating for the animals makes me say, okay, I get to be the next step in that. If somebody hears that message and they're like, oh, that does something to me, or somebody hears that message and they're like, ugh, I'm so turned off. I get to be here with how I do things to either show them the next step or to show them that the community is diverse. We're different. We're not all the same. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't want to just let that go and not, say that because they are a huge part of the SoFlo Vegans community as well as the non-vegans who are just looking in to see kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think being inviting is a very, very key part because once they're intrigued, once they give it a try, like I said, most people are going to be receptive. Are they going to go vegan? Not necessarily, but you know what? If you normally eat 2 or 3 meals a day that incorporates some form of meat, poultry, beef, even seafood. If you were to reduce that by even 3 or 4 meals a week into, just some type of a plant-based meal, for a long time, I used whey protein in my protein shakes. Now it's only plant-based. And in fact, I think it's infinitely better You know, you don't have any physical, you know, a lot of one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, Sean, and I'm sure this is something you definitely point out, 1/3 of this planet is lactose intolerant, and yet they still have dairy when they shouldn't have it. It's actually physiologically bad for you, and yet people still want to plow through.
We're not meant to nurse on you know, mama cows.
No, but the fact that there are those options, I think once they try it, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, that's not so bad. No. And then I think little by little, the carbon footprint will reduce itself the way it needs to.
And that's the fastest growing plant-based sector in terms of alternative milks. You know, you have a lot more people who aren't even thinking about going vegan that have almond milk in their fridge, and oat milk now is picking up a lot of people.
Well, my 20-year-old informed me that the almond milk is not great in terms of the almond growers and the growing of the almonds and the agriculture and blah blah blah. I get it, okay, but you know, it's like at some point, I got to eat. Right. Like, so there's certain things where this hurts this and this hurts this and this, and you just give me a break. That's how I feel.
No, we're not giving you a break.
That's how I feel. And I'm, you know what, oat milk, whatever. That's fine.
Do you find that, speaking of which, and you kind of walked yourself into this because it's your own fault. Do you find that, you know, the Gen Xers and especially the boomers, are they more resistant to this type of thing than, let's say,
I do resent this comment,
millennials and Gen Zers? Like, do you find that there is somewhat of a generational type of gap when it comes to being receptive to, you know, eating?
Oh my God. If the amount of boomer hippie vegans that I knew before you were born, don't even get me started. What is now Whole Foods used to be our little place called the Unicorn. And that's where all the little vegans hang out. Oh, please. That's been around for, tell them, Sean, right?
Yeah, I don't notice any difference in terms of generations. It's pretty much across the board. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that we're growing it exponentially, and I do think that it is happening. Like I said, I would never tell somebody that, you know, you're a terrible person, you really need to stop eating hamburgers. But what I would tell them is at least consider the prospect of trying something different, because it really does make a difference. And especially for the younger generation, and to their credit, you know, the one thing I can really say about the Gen Zers, especially, you know, we have a very big sunrise movement here in South Florida. Basically everybody's a vegan.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of them.
Really,
but I
really
you know,
big.
like I call burgers flesh patties, and like I don't care how judgy that sounds. To me, it's a flesh patty. I can smell it. It's just gross.
Simon,
sorry,
who is a regular on our podcast. One thing I can tell you, my friend, vegans are not violent people. I can assure you of that. So no, I would not expect. I would not expect.
Animal rights activists have definitely can get violent, but it isn't because it's not necessarily that fact that they're vegan. The vegan trait is not. There's no link between veganism and violence, like in our traits, like in our genetic makeup.
And Farming Ganja, another friend of the show, also talks about how almond milk is. Yes, there's no question.
Oh, for God's sake!
But there's no question that, you know, growing almonds. And
how come oats is not a problem?
Do you know? Because I don't.
Because in another 3 years, they're going to come and say, can't do oats.
No,
oats is XYZ.
No, totally different. Can you explain, Sean, do you know why that is? Why oats is definitely a much better plant-based resource than almonds are?
I mean, as a layman, of course, I'm going to say that it's more about the way the actual almond is. Like, if you've ever seen an almond in the raw that hasn't been processed or shucked or whatever, it's more so of that process. And also
water use.
From an environmental standpoint, there's also been some talks about, you know, habitats for, you know, certain species, endangered species that are impacted as well. But the good thing with all that is that there are other alternatives. Like, I'm excited to see that oat milk is becoming so popular, especially there's some really good brands out there. Oatly is doing amazing things about to launch on the market.
Is that what I get?
That's what it gets.
Well, it's whatever. Look, it's whatever options are there. Now, I will say this, and this is like for anybody who has any input with Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's now has oat milk, but it doesn't have the without sugar oat milk. It just has the regular, and it's sugar. And so Trader Joe's, please get the non-sugar kind oat milk, because it would make my life easier. So for no other reason.
What are the current projects you guys are working on? I'll put the website up one more time, SoFloVegans.com.
What's your next event coming up?
Yeah.
So the next event is going to be actually one that might be right down your alley if you're not already involved with it, called Heal the Planet Day. That's going to be in Snyder Park, April 25th, Sunday, April 25th, whatever that Sunday is, either 24th or 25th, but it's definitely a Sunday. We've been involved with them the last 3 events that they've had. A great organization. They do stuff for the environment. They work with children, work about your health, and they're doing that all throughout the year. But they have this big event each year. A great organization. Check that out. We'll be also doing something with Art Walk. We're still figuring out what it's going to be, but that'll be the day before that. So I want to say it's the 24th and then the 25th.
25th is the Sunday and 24th is Saturday.
I definitely want us to work on projects together. I think you have a great organization. I think with what we're trying to do in terms of building that Florida forward type movement.
Well, we're trying to move things in a progressive manner forward by educating people and building bridges and making a bigger coalition. Just trying to move the whole Overton window to the left a little bit. And this is obviously a huge component of that. And so I'm very appreciative that there's people like you out there sort of doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we definitely would love to, partner with you guys on, various events going forward.
Yeah.
And, we're growing our organization. I think, the hardest part that we've learned, and it's probably true in anything, when it comes to even, growing the podcast, is the big problem that progressives in particular have is a lot of people can't check their egos at the door. They need to be seen and heard. And when you recognize that this is not about one person, this is about everybody and how we advance the movement, I think when you do that, it really does make a big difference. And I do think the ability to incorporate something as simple as people not necessarily wanting to become vegan, but wanting to work with vegans and incorporating
and reducing meat, reducing consumption with that. It doesn't have to be cold turkey. I mean, like the whole concept of Meatless Monday, the whole concept of people, our natural food chain might include meat, but it doesn't include the quantity of meat that we eat. Maybe somebody would catch a deer for their family for the winter and they would ration that, but the rest of the days they weren't eating animal products.
And I do like the idea of like that. It stinks that it's the way it is in our country and in our culture, but so many people are pragmatic. They're not willing to make any type of dramatic change. No. But even the idea of a Meatless Monday is appealing. It's like, all right, I could give up meat for a day.
It's like, yeah. I mean, you obviously are supportive of anything that moves people in the direction of veganism, but yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on doing things that are mainstream, that appeal to people that might not be willing to be vegan, but are wanting to learn more and just sort of, try it?
Well, my intention is always for someone to go vegan, and I'm not attached to, if they decide not to go vegan. It's more of like, I'm here, so I'm not necessarily going to say in my messaging, go vegan for a day. Because for me, veganism has a very serious definition to it. You can be a flexitarian, you can, try things out. You don't even have to have a label, so it's, if you cut down from eating meat every day to eating meat only once or twice a week, that's awesome. And I will clearly state that my intention is that you go vegan. Right. But I'm doing it from a place of like, here's the bowl of everything that's available to you. Here, have a pick. And hopefully you pick something that's like, it makes you go, whoa, Eureka.
Yes.
What I do think from an environmental standpoint, that I think is an obtainable goal that I really think we should try to work on here at the local level, is trying to get a plastic ban. I do think that is something that would be very beneficial in many ways. It goes without saying, we have to reduce our carbon footprint.
We're having bigger problems though, and that's sort of outside of our purview here, because the bigger issues has to do with like home control.
Yeah, we've got
home rule.
We've got that issue that's going on up in Tallahassee that we have to deal with. But I do think that if we build up enough momentum within the county to start, I do think that it can be, I do think things like that can take off, but organizing is everything. We are not one of the better organizing states. There's a lot of other states out there that do an amazing job of organizing for causes. Washington State, Colorado, New York, California.
You're way outside our purview.
What I'm saying is that we definitely need to find a way to build this forward-thinking coalition. And I do think your organization is doing an amazing job. And I certainly hope that we can, build the bench, if you will, between GenCore and SoFlo Vegans, and we go from there.
Well, we're very supportive.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, 100%. Yeah, anything that is dealing with the environment, like I said, my mission and my purpose is to find organizations like yours and see how we can best support from the platform that we have, the connections that we have, bring people together and see how to make this happen. So,
well, I think you should be the official generational change vegan expert. like a consultant, and we have to check in when there's different things and just get, So
if somebody has a question.
Yes. I'm 100% open for that. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Cool. Beautiful. Well, let's definitely keep the conversation going. Once again, guys, it is SoFloVegans.com. Definitely check it out. Definitely. You guys are a nonprofit, right?
No. No, we are a for-profit organization, but we work with a lot of great nonprofits. So if you're ever looking for one, we can point.
Right. No, we're a nonprofit, but we're not a 501c3.
Yeah. So it's that fine line, but we're definitely trying to do everything we can to highlight the local organizations that really need to be highlighted. It's not a sexy topic for everybody, but I think it's a very important one.
And this is one of the things that I would include in our resource page on our new website that we're doing, because I'm going to offer lists of resources for people to get information on different topics. And so for example, this would be a good link for that.
I agree 100%. Sean, you've been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely be seeing you in an upcoming event, and we certainly hope we'll have the chance to be working together as well very soon.
Maybe Cuban sandwiches.
There you go.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks,
Our pleasure, my friend. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
So, needless to say, it's not something that everybody embraces, but if you really are serious about reducing the carbon footprint, at least trying different types of vegan food is a good idea.
I think that a lot of people just do not want to acknowledge the connection between veganism and climate. And just what's happening. I think that it makes it much harder for them to continue their convenient lives of just eating what they like. And there's no sacrifice. There's no person, nothing. Everything is just exactly.
You gotta live Thunberg alone. Listen, I understand that not everybody's dealing with that. Listen,
I'm not eating the bugs.
As much as that's a joke, people eat bugs in a lot of different places.
People eat cats and dogs, but that doesn't mean I want to partake.
That's not the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Why are you? It's all just a matter of whatever your cultural norms are, what you're willing to eat.
We've got. And
I'm not going with bugs.
We've got comedians on our podcast. There's no question. Everybody's got a funny opinion, right, Simon? Everyone's got something silly to say.
Army of ducks.
But yes, you know what? Unfortunately, the Chinese do eat cats and dogs, and that is not something.
I don't know that everybody. I don't look. I have a lot of people eat things like people eat horse. Here's the thing about this country that I've always found so interesting. So the thought of eating a horse freaks somebody out, but they have no problem eating a cow. You'll won't eat a dog, but you eat a pig. Well, I just think it really is random.
It's what people feel are domesticated animals versus non-domesticated.
No, it isn't even domesticated. It isn't even domesticated, or what? It's not. It's so based on just, I think, what industries are profitable and what you've been propagandized to think is typical, or what your natural resources are if you're living in a, not in an industrialized way, you're eating what's there.
Yes.
But I think in this country, it's what sells and what could be best marketed. If eating dogs was as profitable as eating cow, I assure you the United States would be the number one in dog burgers.
Well, what you have to remember is when you talk about low quality meat, and this goes for every fast food restaurant, ladies and gentlemen, and I mean every one of them, don't think for a second that McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and all these places are not still using pink slime, because they are.
They are.
So what you have to ask yourself is,
oh my God, the Chick-fil-A line. We cannot get over.
Yeah, we got to
he needs to get this out there about the Chick-fil-A, because
for the life of me, are they putting cocaine? Are they putting methamphetamine?
It is a double wide line. That is
4 lanes.
It's And it's crowded all the time. And it causes such a backup that they have had to hire, which I guess is good for job purposes. They have to hire people to come and deal with the traffic at the Tower Shops parking lot because of Chick-fil-A. I would never eat that because I call it carcinogenic chicken. I find it kind of disgusting.
And so our friend of the show, T for Y podcast, who is a former Trump supporter / Yank supporter.
The pigs don't give me the puppy eyes. But I will tell you this. So my little son is now volunteering at the little farm up the street. And there's a pig and it's extremely friendly and it really wants to be scratched. It's a big pig. But pigs are smarter than dogs.
Very smart.
Right. So we don't judge what we eat based on the intelligence or the sentience of a being. No. Because then we would eat dogs, not pigs. No, but I understand the puppy eyes.
What you have to, yes. And that is something where, but you know what? If you've ever seen the cows that are going to go into the slaughterhouse and they're crying,
I can't.
It's like
this is why I can't
deny that it's really happening because nobody wants to die.
And I'm not. And it's how they're treated even when they're alive. I've got issues.
That's true. And so,
but I'm just saying when we talk about what animals we think is okay to eat and what we don't, I just want everyone to know the hypocrisy in general.
Right.
That if you are willing to eat sentient being, own it. But the idea that to somehow judge which sentient beings other cultures eat is somehow lesser than what that's the kind of thing that I just have no patience for.
I don't know if this is ever going to take off. But the only thing that I could think of that would potentially make sense. And this is again, working with a organization that I know has had a lot of venture capital behind it. And that is called Memphis Meats. And they're based out of Houston. And what they do is I don't know how you would describe this, but they're recreating the animal cells. They're basically creating the meat itself by just using animal,
okay, so that's almost by definition Frankin Food sounding though.
No, it's cellular agriculture. They're basically taking cells from the animal. They're not killing the animal.
No, they're cloning them basically. They're cloning their meat.
Essentially, that's what they're doing.
Okay, that just gives me the willies. That's like, to me, that's just Frankin Food and creepy. It's just creepy. I think that we're just better off evolving to not necessarily crave the taste of flesh. Like, why can't that happen? Like, that's really where we need to be heading, is to just not crave the taste of flesh.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean,
it's lab grown meat. That's basically what it is.
Sounds so disgusting to me.
I
can't even deal with farm raised fish.
No, for me, again, I'm a pescatarian, so I eat fish. But again,
we know.
It all depends on, what you're willing to do.
And I won't eat all fish. I'll only eat certain fish. I'll only eat wild caught fish. I won't eat farmed fish. I don't like certain methods of catching fish. Like, I'm very particular about that.
No, that's fine. I mean, as long as you're willing to try, that's what I tell everybody, as long as you're willing to give it a go. A lot of times people are not willing to try something different. And that's always the fear. But constantly reaffirming that this is a good idea. This is a good idea. Give it a try. Give it a try. It's silly. But for those of you who watch our channel, one of the advertisers that is very popular on our channel is that guy who sells the mud water. Yeah, that different kind of coffee. And you see that ad and it's over and over. And it's like, oh my God, it's the mud guy again. The mud guy. Is that guy ever going to stop doing it? All right. What does he do again? He sells. Oh, this is a coffee. Oh. All right, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a try. And then the next thing you know, they try it. And after over and over again, you keep hearing, vegan food is not so bad. Vegan food is not so bad. Eventually, you try something.
No, and I do think a big part of it is access and cost.
Yes.
And I think that vegan food requires, if you're not going to just go raw and just eat eat like that, and you actually like the taste of cooked food and different flavors and different stuff, there is a certain requirement of learning different things, and there is an educational thing, because otherwise you're just eating roasted vegetables every day.
That's true.
So it does require more like learning and kind of playing around. And it's so people who are interested in cooking, I think, are probably going to be more inclined to find that appealing, and other people are going to go more the lazy route and get prepared foods, which you obviously now there's more options for vegan, but it's, a lot of Frankin food. That's my thought. Like I said,
we are trying to really inform as many people as we can, because when you talk about how do we reduce our carbon footprint,
this is
driving a hybrid car, it helps, but it is nowhere near the impact that you think it is in terms of what you as an individual could be doing. And that in itself means
and
everything.
I also, and we didn't get into this with Sean, but something that I have learned since doing working with our sustainable little garden and some of the stuff that I've done, because, now I am a I'm certified in climate food justice.
That's lovely.
Yes, I took the course. But so one of the things is that for sustainable agriculture, you don't really need to get rid of all animal grazing. You just need to do it in a different manner that works with the land. Because, for example,
Correct.
the hooves, when they rotate the cows to different places, it actually helps the plants grow. So there's this kind of really symbiotic relationship between vegetation and grazing animals. That is why vegetation is able to grow as well as it is back, however, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, because the animals would move on. They'd graze not too far down, and then they would poo and stir it up, and that all feeds the soil, and then they would move on. And so to a certain extent, grazing animals are an important part of sustainable agriculture. And so I don't dislike the idea of necessarily having cattle. I just dislike how we have cattle. So
yeah.
that's, and I obviously there's people like Sean that just want to see everybody go completely vegan and whatever. I don't think it has to be all or none, but there's a better way. I know that that's true. There's definitely a better way to do it than we are doing it.
Yeah. And I do think most people would agree with that. Everyone, I think, universally agrees that factory farming is bad and that should no longer exist.
It's horrible.
In every possible capacity. Inhumane treatment of animals is intolerable.
It is. It's just wrong.
And it's not acceptable.
And by the way, and I don't care if this sounds all hippy dippy, but I do believe that when you eat animals that have been fearful and tortured and scared and in pain and all that, I think we get that. I think we do. I think we absorb that in. And I do think there is a difference. In fact, biologically, hormones are released out of fear. There's different things that change the composition of meat. I think that a lot of our illnesses have to do with our animal intake and the types of animals we intake. And I do think that applies to dairy. And so I do recognize I have a cheese thing.
Mario, it's basically the same thing. Being a vegan is having a plant-based
diet. But veganism is also, okay. So vegans have a plant-based diet. But you can have a plant-based diet and not necessarily affiliate with the vegan community. The
Correct.
Vegan community.
It's not for everybody.
No, because the vegan community has like an ethos. There is a mindset in terms of what their mission is and what they're trying to accomplish. Whereas you can just be a plant-based person, but not necessarily participate in that.
But
vegan,
I will say that if they
group.
support you, like if they like you and what your mission is and what you're fighting for, they're as aggressive as the Sunrise Movement. They'll go to protests, they'll make signs, they will be in the streets, like they will fight. And they're not violent, but they believe in what they believe in. Like they are willing to put in the work. They're not keyboard warriors. They are in the streets. Like they really.
And I will say this, and I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I saw this study of like different types of diets, how people age that are on different types of diets. And they did a variety of different people, like, from meat and potatoes down to raw vegan, like, and most things in between. And I will tell you, hands down, without a doubt, the raw vegan people lived longer, lived healthier, felt better, looked better. Everything about them was more energetic. Everything about them was like more glowing. It just was. And that was, that was just what I saw from watching this, this research report. And it was just it was obvious. The people that were plant-based, the raw vegans, the most extreme, hands down looked the best. There was a woman, she was like 80. I thought she was 40. Like the variance in how these people look was quite shocking. Yeah. So, to me, that speaks volumes. And I do know that animal products, especially how we get our animal products, is not conducive to healthy lifestyle. It's just not.
And on that note, Simon is going to close us out for this evening.
I agree.
That's,
Simon,
where do you
very
go?
smart.
Where do you go from there? I don't think you go anywhere. I think you recognize that we're going to have to change in a big way. And if we don't, well, like you said, they're not putting guillotines in front of Jeff Bezos' house unless they plan on using.
I got to tell you, if somebody was building a guillotine in front of my house, I would take note.
Yeah.
But I can give a little anecdote about one of the reasons that I actually fell in love with my husband that involves this right here. And that is, we were dating, and very early on, I don't remember what it was. It was some sort of traffic situation. And he turned to me and he said, if we should kill the stupid and the slow and feed them to the poor. And I'm like, I could get behind that. And I just thought, that's smart thinking right there. That was when I knew I liked him.
Well, you know, listen, if you ever thought about running for office again, they'll have a lot of great sound bites from this podcast to
take
use
the
against
stupid
you.
and the slow and feed it to the poor.
Yes.
But he was thinking about the poor.
Oh my God. The truth, but bottom line, we're not here. We're here to build the biggest nonpartisan labor movement coalition you've ever seen. Because while our good friends here do not agree with the vegan lifestyle, they will always be able to find a caveat or two where they say, you know what, I do agree with that. You're not trying to change my lifestyle, but you are trying to make me a better person.
But don't you think the reality is, in every movement, in every group, there's of course the people on the extremes that turn off other people. In every group and every movement, there's
have
the
you
people.
ever heard of a guy named Tim Canova before? I'm just saying that at the end of the day, there's always going to be bad apples. You will never be able to.
Thank you. Thank you for appreciating that. And that was also within the same week that he turned to me and he said that he was going to make a lot of money so I could have all the shoes I wanted. I've got to say, he was definitely, he was wooing hard.
Yeah,
of course, that was back when I wore leather. So, you know, I was into that's one of the saddest things to me about veganism is the shoes. And we don't talk about that enough because we're always focused on the diet issue. But I want to say that not wearing leather has definitely set back like something that I used to like my love for shoes and my interest and stuff. And yes, I know there's vegan shoes. I have them. I wear them. It's just the selection is not as good. They don't wear as well as leather. They just don't. And it is what it is. It's I do it. I don't carry a leather purse. I wouldn't, but do I miss that? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I look at like a really nice pair of shoes and I'm just like, oh my God, those are so smoking. And I'm never going to have them because they're made of animal product. And I'm just saying.
Like I said, you know, for me, one of the reasons why I eat a lot of vegan food is not just because I like the taste of it, but it does make me feel better. I mean, and I'm not talking about, emotionally I feel better. No.
Oh God, no, not that.
No, definitely not. That's not something that guys
we don't talk about that.
But we definitely, you know, physiologically, I do feel better. And that's important.
Yeah.
You know, having more energy, I think, is a good thing. So with that said, this is a topic that will be brought up again because, again, the environmental movement in South Florida is growing exponentially. As we talked before, the Sunrise movement in particular is doing a great job. SoFlo Vegans are
what do we have coming up?
A component of that. Jen, you are going to be on a show on Wednesday.
It's not really a show. Is that a show?
I think so.
It's like a panel for Cooper City High School. I don't know that that's something that other people are watching.
Well, if we get the footage of it, we'll let you guys know. And then Thursday night, we have right now one scheduled guest who may have another one. But who do we have?
Josh Hamilton.
And does anybody know who Josh Hamilton is?
Probably not, but they will.
Okay.
He is a content creator and an extremely smart YouTuber, and he lives in Belfast, and he's Irish, and he's very lovely.
Well, I'm Irish, so I guess I'll have a little fun talking to him. Maybe he'll let me know.
If you mock the accent or try to do it, I might have to give you the hug.
All I have to do is hear him talk it for a while, and then eventually.
Oh my God! Please don't. Please don't.
Well, eventually it'll pick up.
No, you're going to sound like a leprechaun.
Well, I am a leprechaun.
No, please.
I'm not red hair.
I can't.
Golden, horse.
I mean, you know what? Like, and the thing is that look, I have
balloons.
A very nice affinity for the Irish, but you know me, and I do love my Scotsman.
I'm not Scots.
I know, and I do love me a Scotsman.
All right, Jen letting us know who she likes. So for all the Scottish boys out there, come jump on the show at some point.
I do.
We got to really grow this show out.
But so on Thursday night, and we'll see what else happens between now and that. But and Thursday night will be, well, it's April Fool's Day, which doesn't mean anything to me, but it will be our first show of the month. So we're going to announce a whole bunch of new patrons, which I think will be exciting. And we'll have
for any of you out there who are not currently a patron, you know, we do know that is a very important part of our process. And so if you haven't become one yet, We highly recommend that you do.
It helps a lot.
It really does, because let's face it, the channel is getting throttled. You guys have probably noticed that. And we've even tried to incorporate some of the tactics. Again, we're not into the drama BS.
And I will say this, though, this is something that people should also know about, like giving money to us versus like, I don't know what other people do, but our Generational Change podcast is basically an offshoot of our GenCore, which is our service organization. So when you are a podcast member, I have one account and it's the GenCore account. So the majority of stuff that comes in is going towards service activities. I'm going to start putting together like homeless bags. We're doing a trash and taco beach cleanup on next Tuesday. So like the money that's coming in from this is contributing to our service organization.
Right.
So you're
I'm not getting any money.
No,
that's for sure.
No. So no, I mean, and look, at some point, if we were able to really get somewhere, yes, we could afford to like actually pay an assistant and do that. But that's right now where our money that comes in through Generational Change is all through GenCore.
Correct.
And all of the money is going towards serving the community.
And we are definitely getting throttled. I see it every day. We are getting unsubscribed. I even noticed that some of the people that had either been following you or vice versa is like unsubscribed. I mean, the throttling by big tech is just
but I do think what we need to do is we need to talk, like a lot of people don't know who you are.
My name is Peter.
Hi, but it occurs to me, we've never done that. And we get comments every once in a while like, hey, Jen and you guy.
Oh, before we go.
So I think in our intro, it should start saying that maybe.
Before we go, we do have one special guest who wants to come on and give a very important announcement before we go off.
You're down to very few people here. Here we go.
I just want to let everybody know that I just got back from Bessemer, Alabama, and it looks like there's a very good chance that they are going to unionize. And that is
here's hoping.
We're very hopeful. We're certainly enthusiastic, Jen.
I hope so.
We definitely need to have more union power in this country, and I do think that it's going to happen, and that is going to get a lot of people excited about the prospect of doing their own unionizing in their own place of business, wherever that may be. So let's make sure that we get that vote done. We're going to beat that son of a gun, Jeff Bezos, into the ground, and he's not going to be so powerful after we unionize. Let me tell you.
I think we should do the guillotine with him.
I was just wondering, I don't know if you heard, but I actually went down to Bessemer, Alabama this weekend to rally the troops, if you will, to get them to vote. How come no one came down to join me? I don't understand.
Jamal and Corey were there.
Yeah, but they're good people. But how come they were the only ones? I mean,
well, you mean why were no real long-term entrenched Congress people that supposedly stand for labor, because the Democratic Party is supposed to be the Labor Party? Like, where were all the labor activists from the Democratic Party? Where are your fellow senators, Bernie?
Look, they're all my friends, and I appreciate them. But
you need better friends, Bernie.
Who am I going to hang out with?
I don't know, but you need some better friends, man. Because if people like Joe is your friends like that.
If I was president, everybody would want to be my friend. But I am the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, and that's got to count for something. So I've got some really big plans ahead. We are going to reduce the age of Medicare down to 55.
And I actually would like to say I'm supporting Senator Rubio pushing to add the Everglades restoration into the new infrastructure bill.
Listen, Senator Rubio, I know he's a Republican, but
I got to give props when they're due.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I did I did a really great bill with Senator McCain. May he rest in peace. We did the veterans bill.
Yeah.
For the VA, and so I'm willing to work with anybody on a variety of issues as long as it is about helping working people. That is the most important thing to me. So I definitely want everyone to know that Bernie is open for business as long as it's not corporate special interests.
No, but see, here's a good question. Bernie raised $175 million for his campaign and then dropped out. All of my friends want a refund. It's a sad fact.
Look, I did the best I could. I helped a lot of causes, and
I respect as far as you've taken us, but I do understand why people were upset that they donated and you didn't.
Listen, I am very, very strongly going to consider an endorsement of Jen if she runs again against that Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So how about
yeah.
I'm going to do the best I can. Okay, I know I'm not everything you want me to be, and I apologize. But make sure you get that Nina Turner elected to Congress.
See, Simon wants to know if you're turning into a sellout.
Me?
I don't think Bernie's a sellout. Bernie doesn't take money from corporate special interests, but I do think that he has been in the political scene for a long time and he likes to play nice. And I think that what we kind of need is somebody who doesn't want to play nice.
Well, I mean,
that's just my,
I'm fighting very hard for the position.
We'll compare methods of how you rally people and how someone like a Congresswoman Turner rallies people once we get her in.
Well, let's agree to get Nina Turner into Congress.
Yes, well, that's is my priority right now. Between now and August 3rd, our priority is to get Nina Turner elected.
We are going to get Nina Turner elected. And we are also going to help a lot of other progressives.
Yes, and now that we're working on our website, we are going to provide links to all of the people that we want everybody to be helping and phone banking for and donating as much as we can and really helping promote those candidates. So
those candidates are wonderful people, and I really hope that they get elected. I know I'm not really going to do much to help them, but I'm going to send some encouraging vibes. There's a lot of positive. I live
you're oh so helpful, Bernie. Thank you.
I am helpful.
Very helpful.
Hey, listen, if they unionize down in Alabama, I got to get some credit for that. I mean, I definitely played a part there. And, like I said, we're definitely trying to get Medicare down to age 55. That's going to help. Apparently,
that actually is a really, I heard 50 was like what they were kind of trying to.
Well, you got to negotiate.
I suppose. But like, why wouldn't you ask for 50 and then be happy with 55? See, that's the problem. You go in there asking for 55.
Joe says that you have to negotiate with the GOP after you've already given away the funds.
I don't understand how any of these people think that they and I'm not very good at negotiating at all. But even I know you don't go in with what you want. You go in with hoping to get what you want. You ask for more.
That is what we're hoping for. But I seldom think that anybody is going to do anything to hurt the private insurance and big pharma industry. But I am going to continue fighting as long as I'm there. And we are going to continue to build this coalition. It's going to get really, really big.
Okay.
It is a political revolution. It's still happening, even though I'm not president.
I'm ready for dinner.
Okay. Well, with that said, it was great to see you all. And we will see you again real soon.
Right? Peace out.
Good night, guys.
Peace out.